Well, it's summer here in Ireland, so you know what that means. It's cloudy and dull, like the rest of the year. But it's the only time of year that makes sense to build a solar-powered contraption for my desk. I feel like I've been on a streak recently making pretty aggressive builds. So today, I'd like to work on something a bit more relaxing by battling the Irish weather and building a motor from scratch, but that's powered by the sun, or at least by our slightly brighter summer clouds. Now, to make this more interesting, I'd like to see if we can use the sun to power a model of the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, and then I'd even like to see if we can make the motor float and spin it while it floats. This should be a pretty interesting way of visualizing just how sunny it is while I'm working at my desk. Now, I did wonder if I could power a standard Lego motor using the small solar panel. Unfortunately, not quite enough here. Though it could just about manage to run one of my brushless motors I designed in my last video. Keep going! The thing is, if we're gonna run anything with the solar panel, we're gonna have to build it from the ground up to sip only small amounts of power while running. So, to start with, we'll need a rotor for our motor. This hexagonal piece here will allow us to mount 6 magnets around it, and to secure the magnets we'll pop on these flat wheel pieces, and this whole wheel now feels secure and balanced enough for our rotor. I'm using these 25mm neodymium magnets, which we can double up on to make them stronger. Then, with a little blue tack ring, we can secure a magnet onto each of these 6 spokes of the wheel. It's probably not perfectly balanced, but it's good enough for this first motor. Then for the motor itself, we'll need a serious gear reduction because this is not going to be a powerful motor. This first motor is going to collect energy from the sun, gently spinning while it's sunny, and I'm hoping that if I gear it down enough, I might be able to power this lovely orrery model by Lego. There's something oddly poetic about using the sun to power a mechanical model of the sun, the earth, and the moon. So now we have a lovely gear reduction. This should allow us to power the orrery. Then we'll need to build a nice cage around the mechanism to host the wire coils and to keep it upright. Now I'll admit, for this first motor, the thing I'm concerned about is that this orrery model does require some significant torque to run it. And I did run some of these early experiments last year, and even with a small battery running the motor, it barely ran the orrery. So powering this motor from a small solar panel might be quite a challenge. My only hope is that we can still at least see the Earth spinning in real time, rather than using a gear reduction that's just too slow to see the movement at all. Fingers crossed. So on top here is where we'll pop our final gear reduction and magnetic rotor. And we'll secure the top here to reduce wobble. Now as you can see, with this crazy gear reduction, the rotor can do quite a lot of work, while barely spinning the output axle. This should hopefully give us loads of torque, which is exactly what we need for this beautiful orrery. This axle here is our input for the orrery, and as we spin it, you can see the sequence of gears tracing out the orbits of our system. This ring here indicates the months, and this box controls the spinning of the sun and transmits power to the Earth's orbit. We even have the moon indicating its phases here. So let's add our celestial bodies, starting with the sun. We'll pop the sun into the center of the model, and then our Earth. We can pop onto this axle here, and the moon goes right here. Then if we spin the input axle, we can see the magic of this orrery, with the moon tracing its path around the Earth while remaining tidally locked, and the Earth spins on its tilted axis around the sun, which is also spinning slowly. I've got to say, this is a really beautiful model, and I'm delighted that LEGO finally threw their hat into the ring to design an orrery. And you know what? Building this model reminds me a lot of how I personally like to learn, by experimenting and playing with concepts rather than just reading about them. Which makes this a perfect moment to thank today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is an interactive learning app that helps you become a better thinker and problem solver, with thousands of visual hands-on lessons in programming, AI, science and engineering, and much more. I've been digging into their circuits and scientific thinking courses recently, and it feels just like building this project. You get to experiment, play, and just figure things out for yourself. That way the ideas really stick and you can see real progress as you go. What I personally love is that Brilliant teaches you by letting you solve problems step by step. I don't have the best memory, but you're not just memorizing formulas here, you're building intuition, learning to actually think like an engineer or scientist. Like these circuit courses. I just learn on the job for most of my projects, so these courses are great for training better intuition around a topic. By way of example, I now have a much better idea of what coils and what resistances I need for my projects. So if you'd like to give your brain a daily workout and help you with your own projects, head to brilliant.org/JamiesBrickJams or scan the QR code on screen. You can start learning for free, and Brilliant is also giving viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which unlocks unlimited access to everything they offer. A big thanks to Brilliant, and now let's prep our coils for the motor. I decided to print a couple of these because these Lego spools are just a bit too big, too long, too fat, and too narrow. But these red guys are just right for the diameter of our magnets, while being much more compact. And because on most of my videos I have folks asking why I don't use Lego to wind my coils, here you go, a Lego coil winder. As the spool drags the wire onto itself, it also has a little mechanism here to guide the wire back and forth, evenly populating the spool. The wire travels through the guide here, and through a little hole in the spool. Now when we spin her up, the spool pulls the wire onto itself, while the wire guide moves back and forth, evenly distributing the wire onto the coil. Not the most elegant mechanism, but it works. Nice, that's definitely one of my more even coils. Now for this motor, all we'll need is 2 of these coils. One for each side of the motor, over here, and here. Next then is the timing mechanism, which for this motor is our reed switch. This tiny set of metallic contacts in glass pull together in the presence of a magnetic field. When these magnets approach the reed switch, you can see the circuit closing, turning on these LEDs. This control mechanism is a little finicky though, so I secured it to some Lego like this to keep it in a consistent place relative to the magnets on the rotor. Let's see if it runs using just a simple 1.5 volt battery. Now as I bring the reed switch closer to the magnets, hey, there we go. It's spinning quite slowly, but this is only 1.5 volts. And as you can see, as each magnet passes the reed switch, it provides a little kick to the coils, pushing the rotor round. Yeah, that output is barely moving. And if I pull the reed switch away, she stops. Let's see if we can get a little bit more speed with a capacitor charged to about 5 or 6 volts. Well, hey, that's some good speed. That's not half bad running off a capacitor. Hopefully then, on a bright sunny day, we might be able to get some reasonable speed on this thing. Yeah, it's a little faster on the output. Well, this is a 1 farad capacitor, but it's been 5 minutes and it's still going. Probably been about 7 minutes now. About 8 or 9 minutes. I just love how silent this thing is. Okay, well it's been about 15 minutes on a 1 farad capacitor and it's just about to stall out, imagine. So now of course the big question is, can we power this thing using a solar panel? Now I have this small one and this slightly bigger one lying around. Unfortunately right now it's a little miserable outside, so I don't expect they'll output much. But let's give them a quick lick to get a feel for what they're producing. Okay. This small one tastes mild, maybe 3 to 4 volts right now. Alright, let's try the big boy. Good lord, what? This one tastes a lot more than 12 volts, which I don't usually make a habit of licking. And indeed, by the window, the smaller panel is producing around 5 volts, and the bigger panel is producing around 16 volts, on a dull, cloudy day. Now, I was actually planning on building my own solar panel out of hundreds of yellow LEDs, but I tested out this small panel here, and while it can produce a small voltage, around 5 to 6 volts while facing the sun, the current is laughably bad. It took about half an hour to bring this small capacitor up to about 0.6 volts. So to make this viable, I'd need thousands of LEDs and way more time than I actually have. Okay, so what about from my desk? Yeah, about 7.5 volts. Not bad considering there's not a lot of sunlight in here. And of course if I blast it with some extra light, we can get that voltage to go right up. Can it create a small magnetic field in our coil with the panel just sitting on the desk? It's mild, but you can see the coil pushing the magnet off it, suggesting we at least have a mild output from the panel. But can this mild output from the panel on the desk produce enough to drive this motor? Not quite enough to get it going. What if I shine this incredibly bright light on it? I'm actually quite surprised. Oh, there we go, now she's running. Under the bright light, it does get some reasonable speed. And also by the window on a dull day outside, it's just enough to keep it running. So let's get this panel set up to sit on the window to collect as much light as possible. And I'll feed the cable around the side of the room. Back on my desk, I can feed these wires from the solar panel into this board with a capacitor and voltmeter. And on this fierce, mild, cloudy day, facing away from the sun, we're getting about 12 volts. Is this enough to run our motor? Doesn't quite have enough juice to keep it running. But at this point, I noticed a bigger issue. As lovely as my motor design is, it's too big. Wow, that was silly. And the Earth can't pass over it. So, back to the drawing board. Instead of building a motor with a gear reduction, we'll instead just build a gear reduction into the orrery model, and then attach a more compact sun motor. Now this gear reduction should increase torque by 9 times while making it 9 times slower. Hopefully this is reduced enough to run our small solar motor without stalling it. Turning it with my hand does feel like there's still a little bit of torque needed to run it. So I'm just hoping that once the motor gets going, perhaps the momentum will keep it running smoothly. Now to build our new motor, we'll first convert our rotation from horizontal to perpendicular so that it can join with the orrery. This should connect easily from here. Then we can host the magnetic rotor on top of this platform. Now this motor needs to keep a low profile, so we'll try and keep height down. Now we can pop on our rotor and secure the top to keep it from wobbling. Nice and smooth. This motor should sit low enough for the Earth to pass over it. So let's add our coils. Now of course the big question is if the solar panel can even run this. Okay, let's hook her up to the solar panel. It is very dark outside though. Almost going. Not quite. But I have a little trick that might help. This capacitor can perhaps store just a little bit of energy between pulses. Well, it's quite a kick. Now, it isn't running very fast, but it is running continuously. Not bad. The other benefit of this capacitor is if I stall it, and then just let it store up some charge, it gives itself a nice little boost. What if we had a prop? Now there is a slight gear reduction, but I thought it'd be interesting to see this motor powering something where you can see the speed of rotation better. Well, hey, we finally have a sunny day. Does this mean we can run on sun power alone? Nice, 16.8. We'll put in our capacitor, and let's see. Whoa! There we go, what a difference some sunlight makes. This is wild, this wouldn't even run when there was no sun. And now it's belting! This is incredibly fast. Let's give this one more test. Well, clearly the amount of current being produced increases massively when there's some real sun to drive the panel. I'm incredibly happy with this. Let's see if we can drive this big prop. Now, it does slow down, but this does give me hope that the motor will be able to drive the orrery. So, the moment of truth. Okay, let's see if we can use the sun to power this model of the sun, the earth, and the moon. Oh, these right here are some of our sunnier clouds. Hey, it works. I actually like that it moves kind of slowly. We can really appreciate the globe spinning and the moon slowly traveling around it. I've gotta say, I'm incredibly happy this runs at all. For me personally, there's just something so satisfying about using the power of the sun to spin a homemade Lego motor which drives a mechanical model of the orbits of the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. That is so cool. But there is another sun-powered desk toy that I'd like to make that I think will also be very satisfying to watch and tinker with. Let's move on to our floating motor. I have a slightly different idea for driving this motor. I'd like to use 6 coils and turn this into a regular brushless motor with a speed controller. So this pattern I'm building will allow us to host 6 coils. For our floating motor, we'll create a basic platform and cage for it. This platform will sit here, and this hexagonal design will host our coils. And we'll give it some feet for extra stability. And now onto our rotor. These magnets, when combined, will hold on to the Lego axle, and they'll pull the rotor upwards. For the rotor itself, I'm going with a simple 6-bladed centrifugal fan design. Now, I'm not expecting it to really produce much wind from it, but I think it'll be interesting to visualize the airflow from it later, when we test it with some smoke. In theory, this design should push air outwards and downwards. But how do we make this motor float? Well, this magician's thread is almost invisible. You can really only see it when it catches the light. Then we'll use some metal bearings from Metal Technic parts, and these will allow us to spin the rotor and thread with very little friction. Let's then add this low friction pin to our base, and put it all back together again. Now, for this floating motor, it's really floating in inverted commas because it's going to be magnetically pulled in one direction while the magician's thread holds it down, making it appear to float. I have experimented with pure magnetic levitation in the past, using electromagnets to float a platform. Very satisfying to see genuine levitation. And the plan was to wirelessly power a levitating speaker, but I never ended up making a full video about it. So let me know if you'd like me to build something that uses genuine levitation without any anchors. Okay, back to our floating sun-powered motor. The next step is to host our magnets on the rotor. So this 3D printed wafer can take 8 magnets, and we'll try it first by connecting it to our magician's thread. The thread will hold it down, and when we pop on our rotor, the top magnets will be attracted to this other set of magnets, which will sit just on the roof of the cage. Now, if we raise the rotor, the magnets grab onto it and it levitates in place. I've got to say, I just love how this thing appears to gently float in place. And with a bit of a boost from the lungs... Whoops. I can just add more magnets if I need to improve the holding power. By the way, if you like experiments like these with Lego and technology, feel free to subscribe or drop a like. Cheers! And if you'd like to see more behind the scenes of how I make these things, my Patreon is linked below. Well, this all seems to run fine, and it doesn't seem to wobble too much. And the general construction seems to be relatively robust. Magnets seem to hold the rotor strongly in position now, even when spinning rapidly. So let's stick our strong 15mm magnets into the wafer here. Go on. This is probably overkill. With our magnets in place, we'll put her back together again. And then we'll need to create a bunch of coils for this motor. And we'll just temporarily lift this up here. Once again, we'll print off a few of these spindles. And now we have 3 pairs of coils with thin 32 gauge wire. Each pair of coils will be for one of our 3 phases. Now we can add our 3 pairs of coils. I'm hoping that if each coil has enough turns of wire, we won't need much current from the solar panel to run it. And we'll take our brushless motor speed controller. Okay, we'll combine the short ends here. And the long ends we'll add into the speed controller. And I tested that using this little 9-volt battery, which I'll hook up here. And if we bring this a little bit closer to the coils, let's see. Is the rotor close enough to spin it up? Okay, well, it runs. And because it runs fine, even with friction from the axle, when the friction is reduced while it levitates, I'm hoping that we can still drive the motor from more of a distance from the coils. Make it really look like it's floating. Though this current distance might be too much. Now the question here is just how far above the coils do these magnets have to be for this motor to still spin? Yeah, I've reduced the distance a little here. Now the question here is if the distance between the coils and the magnets is too far, or if it's just close enough that we can get this thing to spin. Let's see if it reacts at all when I turn on the switch. Okay, yeah, we've got something. Let me try give it a nudge. Is that enough? Looks like it's slowing down. What if I blow on it to give it some speed? Let's see if this will hold its speed. And yes, I think it is. It looks like it's running by itself now. Tiny bit wobbly, but not that bad. Very nice. It's not particularly fast, but it is running. Okay, there we go. It's been spinning for about 3 or 4 minutes now, so it looks like it's settled at about this speed here. Okay, now the question is, if I turn this up, will we increase the speed much? Does seem to be building a bit of speed. I wonder if we can push past its speed wobble here. And it looks like it's desynced now, and it's slowing down. Okay, so this distance is technically possible to run it, but I think it'll run better and more efficiently if I bring the coils just a little bit closer. Okay, let's try that again. We're now another half a bushing closer. Oh yeah, that's already good. Let me try give it a blow. Very nice, it's off. Okay, it is a little wobbly, but it runs pretty good. Yeah, I definitely need to adjust the wafer a little. Not a crazy speed or anything, but I haven't got it turned up too high either. I suspect it might also run more smoothly if I can increase the speed a little. Okay, let's see what happens if I try and increase the speed a little. Hey, there we go. Coils aren't too warm. Okay, let's turn her off. Not a bad little freewheel. Let's remove the battery. Okay, this is our solar panel output here. We'll pop in a nice fat capacitor. We'll connect our solar panel to the speed controller. Okay, please excuse this whole mess over here. We've got our voltmeter here telling us what the solar panel is generating, and hopefully we can squeeze just enough out of it to keep this thing running. So let's turn this thing on and see if it'll run. I'm gonna give it a little bit of help here to see if it'll jumpstart. It's looking like it is slowing down. And yeah, just not quite enough to keep it running. Which makes me think it's just a little bit too cloudy to give this thing the juice it needs. So we wait another few days until we have some brighter clouds. Well, look at that, we have shadows outside. Hey, and today we're getting a scorching 18 volts. Oh, fantastic, we've got just over 18 volts now and it's nice and sunny, so let's give this another quick try. Oh, I think it's picking up speed. Solar panels are so interesting. Fantastic! Ooh, it's a little bit wobbly, but she's running all by herself. This is all just the solar panel. Fantastic. Oh man, I'm so happy with this thing. I do wish it wasn't quite so wobbly. I probably just need to balance the magnet on top there. So this speedometer is sitting on about halfway, and I wonder if I can squeeze any more juice out of it. Let's see if this increases the speed. I think so. It looks like it's running faster. Yeah, it definitely is. Hey, that's not bad. It looks like it's reducing the wobble as well. You know, this looks like it's stabilized quite a bit with this extra speed. It's not perfectly stable, but it's running pretty smooth. Let me try this again and see if I can give it only a tiny kick. Is that enough? Yeah, looks like it. Now, unfortunately, I was hoping I might be able to feel just a little bit of a breeze coming off this, but it's just not quite moving fast enough for you to notice it. God, you can barely see that string. It actually does look like it's floating. Well, this is probably one of my favorite desk toys I've made. But it'll just run indefinitely, so long as there's some sun outside. Okay, there's one more thing I want to try. Now, this thing, of course, is not spinning fast enough to create much wind, but I would like to see how the centrifugal rotor blows the air outwards. Okay, let's start her up. Hey, nice, it's already speeding up. I've had the smoke machine sitting in my apartment for a year, and I really just wanted to try it out on something. Very nice. Well, this seemed like the perfect invention to test it out. Taking air from the top of the fan and gently pushing it outwards and downwards in all directions. I was hoping this motor might spin fast enough to create a gentle 360-degree breeze, but I reckon it'll need more than the 10 watts the solar panel can provide. Maybe worth a future experiment though. Whew. Okay, there's one more thing I want to try. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just want to see what this guy does when I chuck a bunch of juice through it. Now, the wire is very thin, so I need to reduce the current quite a bit. We'll go with half an amp. Voltage will go to, let's say, 20. Alright, let's see what happens. Okay, let's increase the speed. Huh, that stabilized quite well. Let's keep going. Whoa! Ah! Oh, God. Oh. Okay. Oh, God. Oh. Ah, it's not that bad. We just lost a coil. So, is this thing actually useful? I would say not really. And now that it's got a decent speed, I can feel a tiny breeze off it, but it's really not enough to cool you down. Really, I just like the fact that it sits there spinning away, and it acts as a nice visual proxy for how sunny it is outside. It's a very simple design, but it's quite mesmerizing. And I love that it's just spinning away powered only by the sun. Very cool. Well done, little guy.